The knock came after midnight, sharp enough to cut through the quiet house and straight into Emma Carter's chest. It was Christmas night, the kind when the town slept under fresh snow and memories felt louder than footsteps. Emma had not expected anyone. She never did. Yet the sound pulled her from the couch as if it had been waiting for her all along. She stood still, breath held, listening. The old clock ticked. The Christmas tree lights glowed in soft colors, reflecting off the window. Outside, the street was empty. Then the knock came again, slow, careful, almost unsure. Emma's heart began to pound. This was not how strangers knocked. This was how someone knocked when they hoped to be welcomed. Emma crossed the room and opened the door. A man stood on the porch, snow dusting his shoulders, breath fogging the air. His coat was dark, worn at the edges. His face was thinner than she remembered, marked by time and travel. But his eyes stopped her completely. She knew those eyes. She had loved them once. She had lost them once. It was Daniel Brooks. For a second, neither moved. The world seemed to hold its breath. The town behind him was silent, lit by strings of Christmas lights hanging from porches and street lamps. Snow fell gently, as if the night wanted to soften the moment. "I said I would come back," Daniel said quietly. "If I ever could." Emma's mouth opened, but no words came out. Her hands trembled at her sides. 3 years vanished and returned at the same time, crashing into her like cold air rushing inside. She had imagined this moment so many times that she no longer trusted it. "You're here," she finally said. Her voice sounded distant, even to herself. Daniel nodded. "I'm here." She stepped aside, letting him enter. The door closed behind him with a soft click that felt louder than it should have. Inside, the house smelled of pine and cinnamon. The Christmas tree stood near the window, still lit, even though Christmas Day had already passed. Daniel looked at it, then back at Emma. "You always kept it on late," he said. Emma swallowed. "I forgot to turn it off." That wasn't true. She never turned it off early. Not on Christmas night. They stood facing each other, unsure where to begin. The house felt smaller with him inside, filled with old memories that had never truly left. Emma could feel the weight of everything unsaid pressing between them. 3 years ago, Daniel had walked out with one suitcase and no clear explanation. He had said he needed to leave, that it was something he had to do alone. He had promised to explain one day, then kissed her forehead and disappeared into the winter night. No fight, no anger, just confusion and heartbreak left behind. Emma had spent months waiting for a call, a letter, any sign. When nothing came, she forced herself to move on. She worked at the bookstore on Main Street. She rebuilt her days piece by piece. She smiled when she needed to. She learned how to sit with silence. But every Christmas night, she stayed awake longer than usual. Daniel took off his coat and placed it over a chair. His movements were slow, careful, like he was afraid of breaking something fragile. "I didn't know if you'd open the door," he said. Emma folded her arms, not to block him, but to steady herself. "I didn't know if you were real." He met her eyes. "I wouldn't blame you if you sent me away." She didn't answer. Instead, she gestured toward the living room. They sat on opposite ends of the couch, space between them filled with memories rather than distance. The tree lights flickered softly, casting moving shadows on the walls. Daniel took a breath. "I didn't leave because I stopped caring," he said quickly, as if afraid she might interrupt. "I left because something came up that I couldn't ignore. Family things, responsibilities I didn't choose but couldn't walk away from." Emma listened without speaking. Her heart felt tight, but steady. She had waited long enough to hear this. She wasn't going to stop him now. "I thought I could fix everything fast and come back," Daniel continued. "But life doesn't work that way. One problem turned into another. Time passed. And the longer I stayed away, the harder it felt to return." "Why night?" Emma asked. Daniel looked down at his hands. "Because Christmas was always ours. And because if I didn't come now, I never would." Silence settled again. Emma stared at the tree, remembering past Christmases. We slash meals, quiet mornings, wrapped in blankets. She had packed those memories away, but they had never faded. "I waited," she said softly. Not every day, not every week. But on nights like this, I wondered. Daniel nodded. I hoped you might. He stood and walked toward the window, looking out at the snow-covered street. I wrote letters, he said. I never sent them. I didn't want excuses to sound like lies. Emma rose and stood near the fireplace, keeping a careful distance. You disappeared, she said. That's what hurt the most. No, he replied. His voice was low, filled with regret. And I won't ask you to forgive that. The honesty surprised her. She had prepared herself for explanations, even defenses. Instead, he offered acceptance of her pain. I didn't come back to fix the past, Daniel said. I came back to tell you the truth. And to let you know that you mattered. You still do? Emma felt something loosen inside her chest. Not relief. Not joy. Something quieter. Something real. Outside, a car passed slowly, tires crunching over snow. The town continued on, unaware of the moment unfolding inside the small house. Emma looked at Daniel, really looked at him. Time had changed him. It had changed her too. The love she once felt had softened into something deeper, shaped by loss and patience. Stay, she said after a long pause. Not forever. Not as a promise. Just stay and talk. Let the night finish. Daniel's shoulders relaxed and he nodded. Thank you. They sat again, closer this time, though not touching. Words came easier now about work, about the places he'd been, about the town she still loved. They spoke without rushing, letting the night move at its own pace. As the hours passed, Emma realized something important. This return was not an ending or a beginning. It was a moment of truth, arriving quietly on Christmas night, asking her to face what she still felt. And as snow continued to fall outside, she knew the hardest part wasn't his return. It was deciding what to do now that he was here. Emma watched the snow fall outside the window, but her mind was already racing. Daniel was still in her living room, and the air between them felt electric-like, a storm that had been waiting years to hit. She had let him in, listened to his story, and now she had to decide what to do with the truth. Christmas night was no longer just a holiday. It was a moment that could change everything. Daniel sat on the couch, staring at the tree lights as if he was trying to remember every detail. Emma could see the weight of his choices in his eyes. He had come back, but he still looked like a man who had been running. She wondered what kind of life he had lived while she was alone, building a new one without him. I never stopped thinking about you, Daniel said suddenly, breaking the silence. Even when I was far away. I've thought about the sound of your laugh. The way you'd tilt your head when you were trying to understand something. I thought about you every Christmas. Emma felt a lump form in her throat. She wanted to say something sharp, something to protect herself. Instead, she listened. She realized that he was speaking not just to explain, but to make a connection again. It was both sweet and painful. You don't get to just show up and say that, she replied, voice steady but quiet. You left. You didn't call. You didn't send a message. You just disappeared. Daniel nodded. I know. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I just needed you to hear the truth. I didn't leave because I didn't love you. I left because I was afraid. Afraid that if I stayed, I would hurt you. Emma stared at him, trying to understand. Hurt me how? Daniel's hands tightened into fists. My family had problems. Big problems. Things that could have put you in danger. I didn't want you to get pulled into that. I thought leaving was the safest choice. Emma felt a cold shock go through her. Danger? Problems? The words sounded heavy. She had spent years imagining simple reasons, work, fear, pride. She never imagined this. Why didn't you tell me? She asked. Daniel looked down. Because I didn't know how. I thought if I told you, you'd insist on staying. And I couldn't let you do that. I couldn't risk you getting hurt. Emma took a deep breath. She wanted to hate him. She wanted to shut him out. But the truth had opened a door in her heart she hadn't known was still there. So you just left, she said. You left me alone with no explanation. Daniel nodded. I know, and I'm sorry. Emma felt her eyes sting. She blinked hard to keep the tears back. "That's not enough," she said. "You know that, right?" Daniel swallowed. "I know." They sat in silence for a moment. Emma stared at the tree. The light seemed to blink like a heartbeat, reminding her that time was still moving, whether she was ready or not. Then Daniel spoke again, his voice softer. "I'm not asking for a second chance," he said. "I'm asking for a chance to make things right." Emma turned to him, and for a moment she saw the boy she had fallen in love with. Not the man who left, but the one who had once made her feel safe. She remembered their first Christmas together, the way he had looked at her as if she was the only person in the room. She remembered the promises they made, the future they planned. She also remembered the pain. "I don't know if I can trust you again," Emma admitted. Daniel nodded, as if he expected that. "I don't expect you to trust me immediately, but I want to earn it. I want to show you that I'm not the same man who left." Emma felt her heart soften, but her mind stayed sharp. "If you're serious, you'll stay long enough to explain everything. Not just the part you want me to hear. The whole truth." Daniel looked up. "I will." Emma stood and walked to the kitchen, pouring 2 cups of coffee. The house felt warmer suddenly, like the room itself was supporting her decision to keep him close for one night. She handed him a cup. He took it with shaking hands. They sat again, closer this time, but still careful. Emma watched him drink, his face tense with the effort of holding back emotion. She realized he was as tired as she was. He had carried his guilt for years. She had carried her loneliness. "Tell me everything," she said. Daniel nodded and began to speak. He told her about the family issues, about the threats he faced, about the reasons he couldn't involve her. He told her about the letters he wrote and never sent, about the nights he cried alone and the days he pretended to be okay. Emma listened, her emotions shifting like the weather outside. At times she felt anger. At times she felt pity. At times she felt the old love rising up again like a flame she thought had died. When he finished, the room was quiet. Emma finally spoke. "Why now? Why Christmas night?" Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "Because I couldn't spend another Christmas without you. I realized that running didn't solve anything. It only made the pain worse. And I missed you. I missed you so much, it hurt." Emma looked at him and felt a strange mixture of relief and fear. She had wanted him to come back, but she hadn't been ready for how real it would feel. She didn't know if her heart could handle it. She stood up again and walked to the window. The snow kept falling, covering the world in white. She thought about the years she had spent alone and the future she had built. She thought about how easy it would be to open her arms and let him back in. She also thought about how much it could cost her if he left again. Daniel watched her, quiet and still. Emma turned back. "I need to know something," she said. "Are you here to stay?" Daniel looked into her eyes. "I don't know," he admitted. "I want to. But I can't promise anything until I fix the things I left behind." Emma felt her stomach tighten. That answer wasn't what she wanted, but it was honest. She walked back to the couch and sat down. Daniel moved closer, but he stopped short, respecting her space. He didn't reach for her. He didn't demand anything. He simply waited. Emma took a deep breath. "Then we start small," she said. "We talk, we rebuild. We see what happens." Daniel nodded. "I can do that." They sat together in the quiet, watching the lights flicker. It wasn't a perfect moment. It wasn't a movie scene. It was messy, real, and full of uncertainty. But it was also a beginning. Outside, the town remained asleep. Inside, Emma and Daniel stayed awake, letting the night do what it always did, turn endings into new chances. And as the clock moved closer to morning, Emma realized that Christmas had brought him back not just for closure, but for a chance to love again. Whether it would work or not, she didn't know. But for the first time in years, she felt hope. And hope, she knew, was the most powerful gift of all.